Hello everyone. If this is your first time visiting my channel, welcome. My name is Tu and I am 25 years old. I was born and raised in a small rural village in northern Vietnam. My family has never been wealthy, but I have always felt grateful because I grew up surrounded by the love of my parents and my older sister. Today, I want to share a story that I have never had the courage to tell before. It is the story of my older sister, my family, and the tragedy that changed all of our lives forever. Many people know me as someone who is always smiling and always trying to stay positive. However, behind that smile is a memory that I will never forget for the rest of my life. I have one older sister who is a few years older than I am. When I turned 18 years old, I was preparing to enter university. At that time, my family was going through one of the hardest periods of our lives. My parents were farmers. They worked from sunrise until sunset every single day, but their income was never enough to support both of their daughters through school. Because of our financial situation, my sister made a heartbreaking decision. She gave up her own dreams so that I could continue mine. She decided to leave home and find a job to support my education. I still remember the morning she left our house with her old backpack on her shoulder. Before she walked away, she smiled at me and said, "Study hard, work hard. I will work for a few years and one day life will become easier for you." At that moment, I could only nod my head. I believed that after I graduated from university and found a stable job, I would finally be able to take care of her and repay everything she had sacrificed for me. But life did not happen the way I imagined. That day was the last day my sister was able to walk on her own. One morning while she was on her way to work, she was involved in a terrible train accident. I still remember receiving the phone call that changed everything. My mother collapsed in the middle of our yard. My father stood there in complete silence. He could not say a single word. As for me, I felt as though my entire world had stopped. When we arrived at the hospital, the first thing I saw was my sister lying on an emergency bed, surrounded by doctors, medical equipment, and countless tubes and machines. The doctors fought with everything they had to save her life. They succeeded, but the price was devastating. My sister lost both of her legs forever. The moment the doctor explained her condition, my family completely fell apart. My mother cried until she lost her voice. My father sat quietly outside the hospital room for hours without saying a single word. I stood in the corner of the room, blaming myself over and over again. If I had not gone to university, if my sister had not gone to work to support my education, perhaps everything would have been different. For a very long time after the accident, my sister barely spoke to anyone. Some days, she would simply sit by the window for hours, staring into the distance without saying a word. Late at night, I could often hear her crying quietly when she thought nobody was listening. One day, she looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, "I have become a burden to our family." Even today, I still remember every single word she said. Those words broke my heart. However, as time passed, my sister slowly found the strength to keep living. She learned that although she had lost both of her legs, she had not lost the chance to continue her life. After my sister recovered from her injuries, she was introduced to a vocational center for people with disabilities. At first, my entire family was very worried. None of us knew what her new life would be like. We did not know whether she would be accepted, whether she could adapt to her new environment, or whether she would ever smile again. Looking back now, I truly believe that place changed her life. For the first time after the accident, my sister met people who understood exactly what she was going through. Some had lost an arm, some had lost a leg, some had been born with physical disabilities. Others had experienced accidents that changed their lives forever. Although each person had a different story, they all shared one thing in common. They refused to give up. Every day they encouraged one another. They learned new skills together. They worked together. They supported one another through difficult moments. Instead of focusing on what they had lost, they focused on what they could still achieve. Watching my sister slowly regain her confidence gave my family hope again. She began smiling more often. She started talking about her future instead of her past. She became stronger than any of us had imagined. It was also at that vocational center that my sister met a man who would eventually become her husband. He was also living with a disability. At first, they were simply friends. They worked together every day. They shared meals together. Whenever one of them felt discouraged, the other was there to offer support and encouragement. As time passed, their friendship slowly grew into love. Neither of them fell in love because of appearance. Neither of them cared about what the other person had lost. They fell in love because they understood each other's pain, respected each other's strength, and accepted each other exactly as they were. After 3 years of getting to know each other, they decided to get married. When my sister called home to tell us the news, everyone in my family experienced mixed emotions. We were incredibly happy because she had finally found someone who truly loved her. At the same time, we were worried about the future they would have together. Life is already difficult for many young couples. For two people living with disabilities, we knew there would be even more challenges waiting for them. My sister understood our concerns. She simply smiled and said, "I do not need a wealthy life. I only need someone who truly loves me and stays by my side." The moment I heard those words, I could not hold back my tears. After everything she had been through, she still believed in love. She still believed that happiness was possible. Not long after their wedding, our family received another wonderful piece of news. My sister gave birth to a beautiful and healthy baby. I still remember the first time I saw my little nephew through a video call. I could not stop crying. This time, they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of happiness. After so many years of pain, surgeries, rehabilitation, and emotional struggles, my sister had finally built a family of her own. She had a husband who loved her. She had a healthy little child. She had found a reason to smile again. That was something my entire family had prayed for over many years. Even today, whenever I see videos of my nephew laughing or taking his first steps, I cannot help but smile. He brought light back into our family after one of the darkest chapters of our lives. However, life is still far from easy for my sister and her family. They live very far away from us. Both families have limited financial resources. Traveling to visit one another is expensive, and it is not something we can do whenever we want. Because of that, there are years when my sister and I only see each other once or twice.